Have you ever thought about poverty? Did you know that 1 in 6 Americans live in poverty? It's a daily struggle to secure necessities just to survive. The comforts and opportunities that we see all around us is basically out of their grasp. Worst of all, it leaves their young children feeling hopeless for the future. 40% of Americans will live at least 1 year in poverty before they turn the age of 18. Today, I want to tell you about poverty thresholds, poverty guidelines, um, the amount of children living in poverty, um, and a few of the common myths about poverty. Why are so many Americans living in poverty? Well, the book Poverty, A New Perspective states that we don't know enough about poverty, and relative ignorance impedes practical solutions to poverty problems. In the article Confronting Our Beliefs About Poverty and Discipline, it states that many school practitioners think of poverty as a kind of a culture characterized by dysfunctional behaviors that can only be corrected by imposing harsh discipline on students. Further beliefs about poverty are often used to justify racial disparities in disciplinary referrals, achievement and enrollment in gifted AP and honor courses, as well as to justify harsh punishments for disobedience, disorderly conduct, and disrespect. In the in the article, Fergus should suggest that educators learn to understand their blind spots related to race and culture. I'm sorry, I can't stop coughing. Um, but no one chooses to live in poverty; they kind of inherit it. Um, as you can see here, see if you can see that. 66% of children living in poverty live in a household where at least one parent works. What are poverty thresholds and guidelines? The poverty thresholds are the regional version of the federal poverty measure, which was developed by Molly Orshansky of the Social Security Administration in the 1960s. The poverty threshold is a specified dollar amount considered to be the minimum level of resources necessary to meet basic needs of a family. I've got a printout here of 2019. See that? In the poverty guides for 2019, the amount for the single person is $12,490. For a typical family of 4, it's $25,000, and a family of 6 is $34,590. Minimum wage at jobs at 30 hours a week comes to just a little over $11,000. I'm sorry, a year, which is well below the poverty threshold. Let's see. Let's talk about poverty myths. It's stated that on the it's stated on the fourthworldmovement.org, we are surrounded by poverty myths, misconceptions about poverty, people living in poverty that prevent any real progress in the first to end poverty. One of the most common poverty myths is that poor people don't want to work, but yet 60% of the adults living in poverty do work if they are able to do so. Another myth is that drug use is higher in poor communities, but the truth is that people in poverty do not use drugs at a higher rate than the rest of society. There are other myths like poverty doesn't concern me, I'll never be poor, but like I said, 40% of Americans will experience at least 1 year of poverty in their lifetime. One more myth is the U.S. doesn't have much poverty, which is far from the truth. The U.S. actually ranks near the bottom on the rankings of developed countries for both adult and child poverty. So today I talked about poverty thresholds, poverty guidelines. I talked about how poverty has become a big issue in the U.S. and common myths of poverty. I just wanted everybody to understand a little bit more about poverty and not pass judgment on those that live in poverty. Because most of all, I want to say it's not their fault.